Welcome to the Dice Tower. I'm Tom Vasel.
I'm Zee Garcia. How you doing?
So anyhow...
Hi.
What is that?
Okay, I can't wear the mask anymore. It's too hot.
I'm Sam Healey.
All right, folks. Today, we're doing our top 10 horror games.
Can I put Sam as number 1 on my list?
I am getting a little frightened here, actually. Okay, well... maybe we should...
I say nay.
I get it.
Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to do our top 10 horror games, but first let's talk a little bit about how we made the list, or at least how we ordered the list. I think this will be a...
Kim, just don't look that way.
I think this will be a list where we shouldn't get as much flack for the games we put on it.
And there's going to be some overlap, is what you're thinking, huh?
I think I'm going to say there's going to be at least 3 games that will be on everyone's list.
I'm right there with you on that one. My head says yes.
What does my head say?
Nay?
Nay?
But I ordered my list with not by how much not how good the game was, because I think they're all good games, but like how much the horror theme comes through. So
Okay,
my number 1 would be like the spookiest game.
And that's partly what I did, too. I think I took the fact that, first and foremost, it has to be a game that I'm willing to play, a game that I think is interesting. I might not play it all the time, but it's going to be a game that will hit the table at least around Halloween, yeah? And then the factor of how spooky it is or how, how involving the theme is has to play a big part. So... That informed my decision a lot as well.
Sounds like my process was a little bit more convoluted than that. I went to BGG, clicked on advanced search.
Did horror?
Horror.
Oh, I did that too.
And what came up, and then I wrote down a bunch of games that I went through all of the pages of horror games, which was...
A lot.
Excruciating.
And there's actually some games that are horror games that are not on that list.
Yes, which then I realized this, and I went back to the list of games, and I went through probably about 20 or 25 pages of just the database games, the BG.
Woo! That's hardcore when you start doing that.
That's the best research list.
And then I even from that I found out something about myself.
Makes me feel like a
You don't like horror?
I shy away from horror games. I really do, and it's not for any real reason, because I do have some games that I really enjoy that are horror themed ish. I was surprised at some of the games that were on the horror list, as a matter of fact.
There were a few where I said, that's not horror.
Yeah, you're probably going to say that a couple times.
Okay, nice. Okay,
well, that's
good.
fine.
So that's good. There's going to be some discussion now.
Yeah,
All right.
There is. So,
okay, well, we're going to get this out of the way. You're not going to say stuff like Puerto Rico.
Well, it is a horrible game.
No, we were talking about this the other day.
Yeah,
it's horror, not horrific.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I did think of that. But I didn't pull any of those.
Yeah, definitely. There's some games on my list that are horrific, but like Walking Dead horrific, not Kalis horrific.
I like Kalis and Puerto Rico, but anyhow. All right, we ready?
Let's do it.
There we go.
Number 10.
All right, my number 10 is a fun little 2-player game from the Cosmos series. I've talked about it before, so there won't be deliberation very much here, but it is Dracula, the little 2-player card game where one of you takes the role of Dracula and the other one takes the role of Van Helsing. Mm-hmm. And you're trying to track him down and corner him and get him out of the picture. So it's a really fun back and forth horror themed game. It doesn't really have a horror feel to it,
right?
But it fits, and I've really enjoyed playing this game over the years.
I don't think that it's totally devoid of the theme, though.
There's
some weird mechanisms.
Yeah. The theme is there. I think I'm glad it has that theme, right. But it doesn't make me feel tens because of the theme.
Correct.
I thought about it. It was on my short list just because I didn't have that many games on my short list.
Neither.
But Yeah, I got rid of it because it didn't give me the horror theme, even in a cheeky way. And there's some games on my list which will give you the horror theme in like a cheeky way. It's just like, haha, it's cute. It's not scary, but it's cute horror. And that one didn't give me that even, you know.
It was on my short list also. I think, as a side trail here, that horror is maybe the genre that has produced the largest number of just garbage games. There are so many bad games that are horror
It's like horror movies. They're easier to... They make a lot, and they're usually garbagey, you know?
I guess so.
I think it's easier to make a horror movie just to go boo, you know what I mean?
Less substance and more fluff.
Maybe.
I don't know.
I went through those lists and I was like, oh, bad.
Once you get past, I think there were 10 pages of horror games, and I grouped them by I think 50. There's 50 per page, and there were about 10 pages of them, and
whew, that's a lot.
And after you get past page 5,
that's it.
You're
It's
like,
all just
wow, there's nothing here. There's
Demon Rummy.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah,
it's like right, sure.
Zombieopoly and
you're starting to get into.
Well, that is kind of scary. All right.
Zombie-geddon.
You don't get to move one space, and you slowly. All right, my number 10. Actually, you might be surprised at this because it's so high on my top 100, and that's ghost stories.
Okay.
And I really like ghost stories, and the horror theme is there with the ghosts. And what's really weird, and maybe you can explain this to me. Those ghosts are stinking scary. They're like really scary looking.
Right.
And the whole thing is like these really. If I saw any of those ghosts in real life, I'd pee in my pants and just run from the room.
Right. So what are you saying? Why isn't it scary?
But the game itself doesn't feel that scary.
I think it's because the characters you play in the game are like these super dudes. Yeah. That's why.
Oh, you're not like a little girl like, and running?
Like it's a scary...
We're not playing
it's
Tom
like a
Vasel peeing his pants. We're playing...
Yeah, right. You're playing like this Shaolin monk or something who can take
like a ninja,
them out.
Right, that can hold his own in a fight.
The setting and the theme is really scary, but the artwork has that Piero look, which is sort of cartoony and fun.
Right.
While being really,
I don't know.
Like
you see the lady with
are terrifying.
Did you see the lady with the eyes that are teeth? That's great.
Yeah, but and then you're really powerful too, so it doesn't make
maybe that's what
scary,
it is.
You know?
Okay, but I still thought there's a good horror theme to it.
Oh, I agree.
So it's my number 10.
Yeah.
All right.
Very good. All right, my number 10 is actually it'll be the strangest thing on this list here.
15-minute filler.
It's actually an old CCG that's been dead for many, many years now, and it's got put up from Wizards of the Coast.
Shocking.
It's a game called Hecatomb.
Really?
And Hecatomb
Wow.
is this old CCG that had transparent pentagon-shaped cards.
Yeah.
Where you would, it was better as a multiplayer game than as a two-player game, actually, and you would build these monsters and fight each other and attempt to collect souls and bring about the end of the world. The theme is the darkest thing on this list by far for me. The artwork is extremely gruesome and creepy and just way out there, so the game squeaks in on the list because the horror theme is so strong. And
did this one kind of just die almost instantly?
There were 3 sets, and then it got the plug pulled.
They really pushed it. They pushed it.
It was really expensive. The plastic cards were really hard to make and expensive. The game died. But it's cheap. It's out there now. If you want to pick it up as an old dead CCG, you can do that. And again, if you like that theme, it's not a bad purchase. So my number 10 is Hecatomb, the collectible card game.
All right.
Never heard of it.
Obscure.
Very
Surprising.
shocking.
Number 9.
Continuing on with, again, I put the most horrific games at the top. I think this game is an excellent game. Came in number 20 on my top games of all time, and that is Dead of Winter. I think Dead of Winter is a great game, and the reason it's a little lower on this list is because while it's really cool and there's all that betrayal, the horror theming of it's like a backdrop a little bit.
Yeah.
Sometimes it comes to life in the cars. Like, Billy's running into the cafeteria, the zombies are chasing him. Do you let him die?
Yes.
Or do you open the door?
I open the door just to tease him. Then close it.
You can squeeze through. You can make it. Oh,
Come
you
on,
can't
buddy.
squeeze.
Give
Bye.
me the candy bar first, then you get through. That's right, Billy. What was his name?
Billy.
Okay, well, obviously Zee's a horrible person.
I have a head wound. Head wound!
But I forgot what I was going to say now. Okay. No, but I mean, it's a solid game. It's really fun, very interesting and stuff going on, and I like the horror backdrop. So that's why it's my number 9, Dead of Winter.
Cool. My number 9 is Ghost Stories as well.
Whoa!
Same reason that Tom said. Again, I like the game considerably. It's in my top 10, but the horror theme doesn't really come through that much. It's the horror setting, but it doesn't make me feel a spooky mood. So it slips in at number 9 for me. Great game, but not necessarily something I pull out for Halloween.
Maybe if there was a soundtrack in the background of ghosts.
No. Let's not talk about soundtracks.
Yeah, see, I don't know.
Let's not put any of those games on this.
I'm just having trouble. I don't know that I've ever played a game that physically made me feel spooky, except...
You mean not a board game? I played video games that were
that's
spooky.
That's what I was about to say. I've played XCOM, and you turn the lights off and play that one, you might have changed your underwear.
Actually, the scariest I read was Doom 3.
Yeah.
I played that in the dark.
Yeah, in the dark.
Flashlight or gun, not cool.
Yeah.
Learn how to put a flashlight on the gun, son.
But, I mean, a board game, though, that actually makes you feel spooky or creepy.
I mean, you have to really set the mood, right? You have to push. You have to, like, if there's cards, you have to read them in a spooky voice.
I didn't even think about that when I was formulating my list.
I mean, I'm trying to think here of coming at it from, like, a Halloween get-together.
It's more of a fun spooky.
You know what I mean? This is not necessarily the one I'll pull out of a Halloween get-together. But again, great game. It is a horror-themed game. Number 9, Ghost Stories.
Okay. My number 9 is a game that I actually haven't played in a long time, but I do remember having a lot of fun playing it. And it is called Mall of Horror. And the theme is thick on this. Again, it doesn't give me a spooky feeling, but I mean, the board is nasty looking. It's got blood everywhere. And of course, the whole idea is you're a group of survivors trying to survive the zombies that are coming in, and you're having to vote people to get kicked out and that type of thing. So it's a pretty cool game. Definitely has a horror feel to it. So Mall of Horror made my number 9.
All right, my number 8 is good old standby Werewolf. Werewolf is just number 8 and not higher on my list because the game is all that mood, and there's barely any game there. And also, if you're having the party, the Halloween party, and you play Werewolf, that's great, but that means that someone's going to be out of that party atmosphere almost right away. People will drop off real quick, so some of that will go away. For those people that just got unlucky and got killed early, that sucks for those people, and they're not going to get to really enjoy what Werewolf can give you, which is tension and that suspicion, and it's a great game, but there's almost no mechanisms. It's basically a social activity, and it does suck for people who get eliminated early. So, number 8 for me, as a spooky Halloween kind of game, Werewolf.
All right, my number 8 is a game that I have talked about at length on other lists, so I won't belabor it much here. Last Night on Earth.
If I had to guess one to be on his list, this would have been it.
I got one I know is going to be on his list.
Well, I know too.
Very solid game that I've enjoyed a lot. It's one of the few horror zombie games that I can get my wife to play. And that's probably mainly because of the simple mechanics and how fast it can go. Now, it can run a little bit long. Some of those scenarios are a little bit longer than others. So, but it's a really cool theme, and with the expansions, I think the theme just really comes out a lot more because you can take in some of the you're in the woods, and then there's a little campsite in the woods and that type of stuff, and it just all fits together very well. And it's a game that I can get my wife to play, and she doesn't really like this genre that much. So that's why it made my list. Number 8, Last Night on Earth.
I will say that there's not a lot of, when you're going through all the horror games that exist, there's zombies are number 1 by a mile, vampires are number 2, and then everything else is really far down there.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of, I don't know.
Cthulhu. I'm sorry, Cthulhu's number 2.
Cthulhu and Hellboy universe type stuff, and which I can see.
Not specifically Hellboy.
But there's not a lot of, there's not a lot of serious ghost games. I mean, there's a lot of silly little ghost games. but Ghost
Right.
is kind of left. Frankenstein isn't
There's
really
more kid games
delved
that are
into.
Ghost games than adult games, I think.
Maybe. Speaking of Frankenstein, my number 8 looks very cartoony, but I think it can bring out some horror in it. And this is an older game from 2F,
It's alive.
and that's Fearsome Floors.
Oh.
Fearsome Floors. Remember playing that with the you build a monster, Frankenstein type monster, and you chase your guys around. It's all very cartoony, but there, I don't know. Your heart pumps a little bit when you're like, you see he moves 9, you're like, oh no, he's coming right for me.
Yeah, he does that whole and then turns. Yeah.
So you're like in this dungeon, I don't know why, with a whole lot of people. So it doesn't seem like it would be that scary. You could like all team up and take the monster out. But instead you're just all running in circles and he's
Trying to
going
get
to
out.
get some of you. And for the first half of the game, he just throws you back in the corner. For the second half, he kills you. It's entertaining, and I thought it has a good theme to it. That's Fearsome Floors by Friedman Fries.
Cool.
Number 7.
My number 7 is probably the newest game on this list. Yes, it is. And that is a game from Richard Launius, Run, Fight, or Die. Run, Fight, or Die is, I think, the only... No, there's a couple of zombie games on here, yeah. You're trying to escape the zombies. They are coming towards you, and they just keep on coming. And it's wave after wave, and it's a dice game. You're rolling dice, trying to push them back, trying to kill them off. You find locations in town. You find followers who help you, but sometimes they're really dumb and just hurt you. And
They're screaming.
Yeah, they're screaming.
You just wanna
or there's
slap
like
him.
some
Shut
drunk you have
up.
to drag along, and he just won't cooperate. It's a silly game. It's obviously on the the lighter side of horror, but it makes for a good spooky night of games game because it's not scary, but it fits this theme really well, and it's fun chucking some dice and having some laughs. It's that kind of spooky
I
game.
don't know. It's pretty scary when you got a mess of
It's
zombies
tense, right?
on your zone
Yeah,
one. You're
yeah.
like,
It's tense. It gives
Right,
you that
yeah.
tension,
Yeah.
but it's a really fun and funny game too, which is why I like it so much.
Yeah.
So my number 7, Run, Fight, or Die.
you know what? I'm just gonna fess up. If I had thought of that game, it would have been on my list.
Ah,
It
okay.
would have definitely been on my list, but I just didn't think of it. It didn't pop up on the horror stuff, and then I didn't catch it on the other list either. So
Cool.
I
Speaking of
dropped
silly games, okay, this is the opposite. I don't think there's one silly point in this game, and that's Carnival Zombie, my number 7. That game is just like,
it. Oh, it's quite
the zombies are coming.
Yeah, it's
And
really creepy.
Actually,
That one's on the
it is
creepy
kind of
side.
creepy. I mean,
Yeah,
the
it's very-
artwork is over the top creepy.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is.
And they just keep coming.
Yes.
You're like, ah! I'm not a huge zombie fan, but I like this one. And again, it's not as scary in a sense because you have, like in ghost stories, you have machine guns and bazookas and stuff. but they're not enough.
No, those guys are
They're not enough.
way creepier. Yeah.
So, and then those big bosses come in, and those things
Yeah,
are.
and then the pile of zombies that'll give you your heart a start.
Creepy mutations and
Yeah.
stuff, and
Right.
plus that setting is so esoteric and weird and creepy. Like you got the whole carnival, but then you got like the creepy mutated thing with a mask falling off of it, like coming to eat your brain. Ooh.
All right. Well, Z just made it scarier with his description. My number 7, Carnival Zombie.
All right, my number 7 is probably one of those games that you're gonna go, I don't know if that's horror or not. Take it up with BGG, folks, because it's definitely in their horror line of games. In that
We're not
little
bound
thing.
by their genres.
I understand that. I'm just saying that's how I made my list. So take it up with them. Smash Up. That's my number 7.
don't think that's.
Well, it has Cthulhu elements. It has Monster Mash elements.
That's true. The one expansion is called Monster Mash.
I mean, it's got.
It is on there.
It's got a lot of different things, and quite frankly, if you walked into a dimension where all of those different factions were fighting against each other, that might be a little horrific. Yeah, well, you'd die. So, anyway, Smash Up is a really fun card game that you can play where you're all taking these different groups of people. You can mash together different genres. You can play pirate ninjas or zombie time travelers. Or
Oh, man, that's
you
zombie
can do
time
a lot
travelers?
of different things with a lot of the different decks, especially if you have more of the expansions. And you're all fighting for different what do you call them? Locations. on the board, and you get different points for what point with what how much power you have at each location, and the first person to get so many points wins the game. So it's a very light, easy card game, and it has a very light horror element to it, in my opinion. But it is there, so I think it's safe making the list. Number, what is it, 7?
Yeah.
Number 7, Smash Up.
I didn't consider it. I mean, I saw it, and I don't begrudge you for having a list. I'm not as curmudgeonly as Z, but it just wasn't very. It just wasn't very scary for me. That's all. But I mean, I get
It's not
it.
a scary game at all. But again, I mean, I don't get scared at any of these games. So
He's so brave.
Sam's the one you want to be stuck with in the zombie apocalypse.
because I get eaten first.
Number 6.
My number 6, Sam already mentioned, but I'm going to add the updated version of it. He mentioned Mall of Horror, and I'll add City of Horror, which was the updated version of
I haven't
it.
played it yet.
They're very similar. I'll say that thematically, I think Mall of Horror has the edge because you're stuck in that mall. City of Horror, you're in a city and they're coming in, but I don't know, it just doesn't have that same kind of thing. But it's probably a better game. They kind of streamline some of the stuff. Right. But they're both cool. You're sitting there, oh, the zombies are coming in. And then that horrible thing of, Zee! and then we all run.
Which is you don't got to be faster than the zombies.
That's right. You just got to be knock somebody down, right?
And but the artwork is dark. It's kind of spooky, especially Mall. And I think in City they kind of toned back on that blood stained box of Mall of Horror. But they're essentially the same game. City has more game stuff in it, but you know, basically it's I don't have to, like you said, I don't have to outrun the zombies, just you.
Yeah.
So that's City of Horror or Mall of Horror.
Cool.
Okay, my number. Is
6.
it me or you?
It's you.
It's me? Okay. My number 6 is a game that Tom already mentioned, and that is Carnival Zombie. And again, man, you have all these crack-a-lackin' weapons. I mean, you don't feel scared at all. But then one wrong move, one wrong roll, one wrong drop on the pile of corpses.
That sounds lovely.
You are looking.
The pile of corpses.
Oh, they've got it, man.
Yeah, it's the only game I know that actually has that.
The pile of corpses. And I
dexterity.
mean, it's like they are right there, and it's, man, it does have that tension. And I like the fact that during the daytime, the tension lets up like it normally would.
Right.
But then the nighttime comes back around, you're like, okay, well, are we going to make it, you know?
And then it gets worse. It's the darkest before dawn thing. You're like, oh, sun, come up! Come up, sun!
Right? So it really carries that feel of a horrific, it kind of transports you to that setting very well, I think. So it was a slam dunk for my list. Number 6, Carnival Zombie.
Cool. All right, my number 6 is a game I talk about often, so I'll move off of it quickly. This is Claustrophobia.
Okay.
And the theme is, I'll focus on the theme because I talk about the game a lot. And the theme is basically these characters in this really messed up world where even the good guys are horrible people. It's basically convicts who have been sprung from jail to fight off these demonic hordes that are springing up under the city. And so one player will be playing these demonic hordes in some catacombs coming out into the city, and the other player is closing tunnels and keeping them at bay. It's a very dark theme. The theme doesn't necessarily come through that much, but the figures are amazing in the game, and the theme is there. It's a dark game, plays really well, so I love it, and that's what's on the list. My number 6 is Claustrophobia.
Cool. All right.
Number 5.
I think we're gonna start having a lot of the same overlaps now, but we'll see.
Possible. It's possible. All right, my number 5 is a game called Eldritch Horror, and Eldritch Horror is based in the Cthulhu universe, I guess you could say, and it's all about fighting off that invasion that is on the cusp of taking over the world, and you're playing different detectives and investigators trying to close down all of the portals that are being used, and it's very much like Arkham Horror, but it's a little bit more streamlined, a little bit small, hasn't overgrown its britches yet, although it's coming out with a lot of expansions probably. So 1 already, right? Or 2 already?
There's 1 already. 2 is coming out any day now.
Yeah, so
and then there's 254 coming
That's a rough estimate.
And that's 254.
No, but I mean, it's like betting on Fantasy Flight. Will they make expansions for a popular game?
No, I'm going with all in,
Yeah.
So it's
Eventually,
probably...
you'll be able to combine it with Arkham Horror. You can zoom into just Arkham, and then they'll do a game for each city on that map.
You got to play a game of Eldritch, the Elder Signs.
Elder Signs
focus in.
to resolve each combat.
Wow. There was another game that I came across on my search. It was Innsmouth something.
Horror? No, that's an expansion for...
Escape from Innsmouth, that one?
Something like that. I don't know. It was...
Twilight Creations game, I think.
Yeah, I think so. Anyway, but I digress. Eldritch Horror is a really cool game, and I like it better than Arkham Horror simply because it's I like the scope of it better. The world aspect rather than just the pulled in aspect. And Arkham's... I had a lot of fun playing Arkham, I'll be honest with you. It was definitely on my short list. I wrote it down on my note card. Right. So I'm not trying to downplay Arkham at all. It's a great game. It's, the what's the guy's name?
Richard Lonas.
No, not the designer. The stupid thing that kept killing me in Arkham.
Oh, Cthulhu.
Yeah, Cthulhu himself. Had to face that guy down twice in a row.
Look, if Cthulhu's watching, I'd like to apologize for Sam's
I keep knocking
irrational
on the door.
hatred for you.
I don't mean to.
We're dying tonight.
My number 5, Eldritch Horror.
Tearing space and reality. All right, my number 5 is Level 7 Omega Protocol. And Level 7 Omega Protocol is a game in which, again, has that same feel as something like Ghost Stories because you are a bad dude playing. Unless you're playing the aliens.
Yeah.
And
What? I'm a bad dude, too.
You're soft.
You're
You are in this underground, military base, and things have gone awry, as they tend to do. And the aliens have burst forth, and they send in a team of, special squad or something. And, someone's playing the aliens, and the other players are playing one each, or one guy or two guys to a player, I think. And it's just really good. It's extremely cinematic. It's a great game. It puts you there. It really works for like a Halloween get-together. Hey, let's play a movie. We're going to go down here and shoot some aliens and take this base back, Yep. You feel like you're playing Aliens.
Yeah, that's
like the second movie,
exactly,
right?
Exactly.
It's that. It's like, game over, man. Game over. It's that movie in a board game. So, why don't you put her in charge? You put her in charge, man. What are we going to do now? 5, Level 7, Omega Protocol.
I'm not sure we've done many top 10 lists without a Hudson quote. I really feel like that doesn't happen much, but all right.
Hudson,
good character.
Get over here.
Okay, well, Sam just made fun of my game, but my number 5 is Arkham Horror.
I didn't make fun of it.
No, he spoke quite
He spoke highly.
He spoke fondly.
Yeah, like a forgotten girlfriend. I remember we used to play, but we just don't do that anymore.
Right.
But Arkham Horror, I agree with Sam actually, but Arkham Horror does have a very strong sense of horror. It did. And the cards were written so spookily. I mean, anything. You could be at the...
Spookily.
Yeah, but you could be at the library. You're like...
Vasel Dictionary.
I like it.
My dictionary's getting bigger.
It is.
But you could be at the library. It's like you're at the library and there's a man staring at you. You stare into his eyes, and then all of a sudden the room shifts around, and it's just... You never know what's going to happen. Just really weird, stupid stuff.
Yeah.
It's very incoherent, though. Yeah, I mean, you're like, one moment you're doing this, the next the goat man's chasing you, the next Cthulhu walks you around.
Which is partly what Eldritch Horror attempted to fix, was tell a more coherent, more fully fleshed out story, which I think it does.
Yeah.
So anyway, my number 5, Arkham Horror.
Number 4.
All right, my number 4, you knew it was coming, people. I've talked a lot about this game, and it is one of my favorite games. It is very high up on my top 100. It is number 4 on this list, and it's by Fantasy Flight.
Fury of Dracula?
Fury of Dracula.
I thought this was your number 1, though. That's why I was hesitant.
We'll talk about that in 3 spots, but Fury of Dracula it's such a well-designed game. When I first got back into the hobby, we were, the term was flitted around of designer games, and I think this really fits that title. Fury of Dracula is a designer game. I mean, it's so much that its artwork its artwork is worthy of that title.
Although incidentally, the game when it first came out kind of prior to that. It was a bit more sprawling of a mess. They tidied it up a lot.
Of course, they cleaned it up a lot, but I mean, Fantasy Flight's version fits the title designer game to a T. It just has so much going for it. The combat system is a little. Yeah, I think it's cool-ish, but it's more like a
no dice.
Yeah,
drives them nuts.
I'm trying to work around it, but that's what I'm basically saying. I'd like to chuck some dice, but Fury of Dracula, we've talked about it before. I won't belabor the point. Very strong. My number 4.
Cool.
All right, my number 4 is probably one I would say that if most people made a top 10 list, this would be one on it because it's the horror in a box, and that's Betrayal at House on the Hill, which is. The designer basically said, okay, let me think of a horror movie, and I'll put part of that in this box. He went through every horror movie that he's ever seen, and then went to the internet and found more, and they're all in this box. From creepy dolls to ravens flying out to ghosts to, everything's in this game. The game itself is decent. Not great, decent. But the theme, it's there. I think, though, you got to play this one. I don't know if you were with us when that one time we played it with the horror music and the lights turned down low. That was entertaining. And that was what, because you got to read the cards, you got to get into the thing. Yeah. And then when the haunt happens, it's unfortunately sometimes it gets less horrific.
Right, because it's a little cool.
It might be a little, it could be cool, but it might not be.
Right.
Anyway, but still, you want horror themed. I think this game's probably played around Halloween more than any other board game. It's Betrayal at House on the Hill.
Right. All right, and my number 4 is a game that was mentioned already as well, and that is Fearsome Floors.
I thought you might do that. You're a 2F guy.
Yeah, I like the games, and again, this is on the silly side of spooky, and like Tom said, you're running around trying to get away from this Frankenstein guy. You can actually build the monster yourself, so you can be a little vampire or a little mummy. You can make them yourself. It's cute.
Or you could play with 2. Have you ever done that?
You can play with 2 monsters? I don't think I've ever done that.
Yeah, you can play with 2. A lot more people get eaten then.
Though I do like to throw all the weird stuff in there, like the stones and the blood
The piles of blood that you slide across.
On,
Which is really gross if you think about it.
Yeah. But, again, the game is fun. It's entertaining. I could see it being pulled off for a Halloween get-together. Plays a crowd. Plays up to 8 people.
Oh, yeah.
No, that's really long, okay? I wouldn't exactly recommend that. But it's a good game to bust out on the table during Halloween if you want to play something goofy but thematic. So my number 4, Fearsome Floors.
All right.
Cool.
Number 3.
We still haven't had a game that all 3 of us have picked yet, and I feel that this one neither one of you have picked at all. And this one I picked sheerly based on the atmosphere it brings, and that's Escape from the Aliens in Outer Space. Mm-hmm. This is have you played this one? It's a team-based game, I think you might have played it, where you keep track of where you're going on a piece of paper.
Oh,
some people are aliens, and some people are humans. And I'm telling you, I've had my heart rate as a human player. Or I'm just like sitting there like trying to move without the. It really is weird because every turn you're like waiting for the alien player to pounce on you.
Wow, you're really weak in the knees, man. I remember. I remember playing. I'm sorry. I remember playing this game.
Vasel.
You were the alien, weren't you? Though.
No, I don't think I was. But I mean, you're moving spots on a little piece of paper. You're not.
Yeah, but that's where we get immersed in the theme.
It's like playing boxes from hell. Ooh.
Okay, don't listen to these guys. I really think the game is very evocative in there. You're sitting there, and all it is you're doing grid numbers.
You better bring your A-game imagination, though, to that game.
Yeah.
Because it really is just a grid of paper that you check boxes off on. And then other people say, am I where you are? No.
I mean, Goulash is a 2-player game, and I used to play this a lot with my wife on the subways in Korea, and it's very similar, but it's not scary.
Okay, I thought it was. I sit there sitting the whole time just, are they going to get me? Are they going to get me?
Right?
It's very tense, and it has that alien type theme to it. I don't know. That's why I was sure neither one of you picked this one, but for me, number 3, Escape from the Aliens in Outer Space.
Okay, cool. That's me. from here on out, everything I'm going to say actually is something that's been mentioned. Number 3 is City of Horror. I've played Mall of Horror.
There's our first
also.
3.
Played Mall of Horror, and you're right, it's City of Horror scaled back, the really creepy artwork. You know, the original had those Polaroids that were just, like the cards were Polaroids.
Yeah.
They were really like, you could see fingerprints with blood and stuff.
Yeah.
Really scary stuff. I mean, I thought it was great artwork, but the new one, City of Horror, scaled back a little bit, made everything a little bit more cartoony, but the game is better. And one thing you guys didn't really touch on too much is the fact that not only is the game about a scary setting, but the mistrust that starts to develop around the table is really what makes it a good Halloween-ish kind of game. It's that whole, oh boy, I can't trust anybody. They're about to push me out and kill me. My guy's about to die. I need to not trust anyone. It's that. You get that feeling in the game, which is what makes it a really good party game for a spooky setting. So, my number 3... City of Horror, that's the first one we all match on, huh?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I said Mall of Horror, but I guess it's
close enough.
basically
Yeah,
the
it's
same
basically they're similar games. You can go with either one. Mall of Horror is just really hard to find. It's way out of print.
Right. All right, my number 3 is a game that I've talked about at length, and I still have to contact that guy that twittered me about giving me some of his expansions of it. So I haven't forgot. I just haven't got around to it.
Is this that World War II game again?
So yeah, it's Tannhauser.
Ah,
Tannhauser.
Tannhauser.
Ten has on a lot of lists these days.
Talk to BGG, okay?
Hey, there's one list. It fits on this list very, very well.
Yeah.
I'm not arguing that should be on the list.
When you got a guy when you got a Nazi walking around with a demon hand and what's the guy's name? I can't remember his name. A big old Minotaur-looking guy.
Novgorod or something?
I don't know.
It's something else.
Something weird. Daedalus, yeah, there you go, Daedalus. And
Wow, you actually knew that?
yeah. So I mean,
I know my games.
this is definitely a horror themed game. Now it does have the World War II flavor to it as well, because you've got allies against Axis and a lot of that good stuff as well. That's the reason why I really like the game. I like more of the World War II aspect of it. The other Hellboy-ish universe that's thrown into it is just kind of an extra little whatever on top of the goodness that is the game. But it's a really solid game. Had a lot of it had a few innovative mechanics in there that I've talked about as well. But no doubt was going to make my list. Number 3, Tannhauser.
Yeah. I actually like it for the other reason. I love that supernatural setting.
Yeah.
The thing I didn't like so much about the game was the loadouts were really fiddly, having to load everyone out and stuff.
Yeah.
But I thought the movement and the shooting and all that makes for a very also cinematic game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right.
Cool.
Number 2.
My number 2 is, I think the other one we've all mentioned, maybe Tom hasn't yet, Fury of Dracula. Did you say Fury?
And I won't, so...
No, okay, so the two of us have said it.
I considered it.
If that paper game is going to get him weak in the knees,
Fury of Dracula would actually
he'd faint.
shock him to death.
He'd faint,
Yes.
yeah.
Oh.
Even if he was Dracula. That's scary. Going out to sea?
They're all after me.
No, this is what I'm saying. I'm saying the chrome doesn't necessarily equal the tension. It can be the mechanisms of the game can bring the tension.
I agree with you there, but I don't think the game's scary. I think it's tense, what you were saying about your game.
Okay. Anyway, back to yours. Sorry.
Fear of Dracula has
He's
both of those
derailing
things
me.
for me. I think it has tension and it is spooky. It has that great setting. The map is beautiful. Feels period. The hunting around London. I mean, it feels like a game that's taking it's taking like months, right? I mean, what's happening in the game, but it keeps up the tension and it works well. And you're doing that hunting and coordinating and trying to trap Dracula, and he goes out to sea and you lost him, but he's out there, he can't stay at sea very long, so he's got to jump back into port. And you finally do trap him, or you come across one of the traps he laid for you, and the theme is just spectacular.
You finally trap him, and you're like, yeah, I got him. And you're like, oh,
it's nighttime.
crap,
Right?
I gotta fight Dracula.
Or it's nighttime, and then you're really,
Yeah.
So it had to be on my list. I mean, I knew this was going to be on the list as soon as I knew what the theme was. Fear of Dracula, great, spooky setting, game.
Yep.
Love it. Number 2.
Number 2. All right, my number 2. A game that has been mentioned by Z already, and that is level 7 Omega Protocol.
I thought this might be on your list.
And,
Wow.
And I go back to what he was saying. This is Aliens, the second Alien movie in a box.
Yeah.
And it's almost unfortunate that they weren't able to purchase the license, because I think this is Aliens, the movie.
Right.
The game. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it just really has that feel to it where you're the Marines, you know your business, you know what you're doing, but you don't know what those aliens are going to pull off, and you're doing everything you can to stay alive and accomplish the mission. And it does have that freaky vibe to it. You know, you don't know what's around the corner. You don't know if it's going to pop out of that little air vent or whatever.
Right.
And it really has a very cinematic horror feel to it. And so I knew it was going to make my list, level 7 Mega Protocol.
I think the militaristic overtones, too, really come to light for me.
Yeah.
It made me feel, I know when I've played it, it always makes me start talking like a grunt, being like, yeah, up against the wall. You know, like it just brings it out of me. That role playing, you know, the role playing like a jarhead. So, yeah,
All right.
that's a good one.
My number 2, Sam already mentioned, and it's higher than Arkham for me, Eldritch Horror.
All right.
And I think the story is more cohesive, but it still has a very cool horror theme to it. Then you're running across the world, and you really feel like it's desperate. You're in the jungles, and you find this weird temple, and you search in it like you shouldn't, but you do anyway, and because you need to find some clue, and then the monsters show up, you know, and they're giant, nasty monsters. A huge spider shows up in Greenland and just starts killing people for no reason. You know, spiders are scary. There should be more horror games about spiders. Like Arachnophobia, the board game. That'd be creepy.
We have to get Jeff Daniels on board for that. And
You would
Only good spider is a dead spider.
I'm with you there.
Starship Troopers, really?
Anyhow, Eldritch Horror, lots of fun, lots of theme. My number 2.
Cool.
The only good bug is a dead bug.
And finally, number 1.
All right.
The dice of doom are back.
It's been so long. All right. A 3, I can do it.
5.
8.
Cheating!
That's what you get.
All right.
Who's first and last?
I am from... Let's do... I'm going to go with Sam, then me, then you, Tom, okay?
All right.
And I think I'm going to try to guess, actually, what Sam's is. What do you
come
think?
on, you shouldn't have to.
I don't know.
I'm going to guess Dead of Winter.
That's my guess too.
You didn't have to guess. You're both wrong.
Wow.
No, they're not wrong. Oh. by far, number 1.
The new hotness.
The whole idea of this one, the theme is being a backdrop. Phooey! This is a horror game, and it is a rocking horror game. The cards, the crossroad cards, if they fire, that's the only kind of...
You've been waiting a whole top 10 list to do this.
Yeah, I guess so. This would have definitely made my easily would have made my top 20 on my top 100 if I had played it in time.
Right.
Easily, probably would have broke the top 10.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I really enjoy this game a lot. The crossroad cards, the only fiddly part about it is they might not fire. And some of them are character specific, which means that there's no chance for them to fire unless that character's in the game. So that's my only fiddly part about it. But the crossroad cards are great. Mechanics are super cool. I like the idea of having traders in the colony. And if you understand where they bring the game from, books like The Road that have those different factions that are out there and not part of your group, and they're trying to infiltrate. That really works. And the theme is just very cohesive for me. So I actually like that the zombie part of it is a backdrop. I will give that caveat.
Right.
But the horrific nature of a post-apocalyptic world is the game is immersed in that. It is not a backdrop. It's part of every part of the game. So that I usually am not able to do this. On this list, I put 1 Dead of Winter. Then I went and found everything else.
Cool. Well, that's good, though.
Well said. Well said.
Now we got to guess yours?
Yeah, go ahead. Try.
Betrayal?
Pandemic.
Tom's right. Betrayal. Betrayal at Pandemic. Betrayal at House on the Hill is my
Pandemic
number
could be
one.
horror.
Yeah. Well,
Okay, anyway.
Betrayal at House on the Hill again.
Sci-fi.
Like Tom said, the game's not the best game ever. It's a flawed game, and I do wish they would come up with a game that gave me this much flavor and was a better game. But until that comes along, this is the Halloween game. This is the game that is the House of Terror. It's you walking in there and you read these cards and they're all creepy and you hear stuff in the walls and there's blood dripping.
I want to ask a question after you're done. Go ahead.
The game just, it's like tailor-made to be played during Halloween with a bunch of people with the lights turned down, some creepy music playing. This is the game. And sometimes the mechanics can clutch up and give you a not-so-great experience, but you'll still have fun going through building the mansion and reading all the creepy cards and getting some spooky artifacts. It's just works. So I was pretty sure this was going to be near the top of the list, even when I thought about the theme, and I ended up settling on it being number one because of the theme, horror. It's prevalent.
I got a question for both of you.
Yeah.
Because, well, while you haven't given your number one yet, maybe I'm stealing some of your thunder, but why Betrayal on the House of the Hill and not Mansions of Madness?
I haven't played.
Oh, you haven't played Mansions of Madness?
Actually, Mansions of Madness is my number one. But I considered Mansions of Madness for the top 10 list, but,
it
there's
seems
a lot.
like a very similar...
It is.
I played both of them. It is a very similar game.
I should play that then.
I think the mechanisms in Mansions of Madness, you get so caught up in solving this puzzle. There's like puzzles to solve and stuff that sometimes that can take the place. I know there's a really cool story there.
Yeah.
But I get caught up in like
Right.
you're like connecting
Betrayal's just
wires.
fun. That's the thing. Betrayal is like just watching the movie,
Yeah.
like being in it,
Yeah.
being in the movie.
Mansions of Madness is work to play. To some degree, and maybe that's why I haven't pulled it out.
I like Mansions better. Of course, it was on my short list, but it didn't make the cut for the 10. But Betrayal was also on the short list, but I probably would have ranked Mansions higher than Betrayal. But
Play that.
All right.
I'm really at a loss. I left him for last because I was really at a loss for his number one spooky game.
His number one spooky game.
I'll give you a clue. It's already been mentioned.
It's already been mentioned. By whom?
I'm gonna say level 7 Omega Protocol.
Let's see here. No,
He loved that
He already
game.
said Dead of Winter.
He loved
Level
that
7
game.
Omega Protocol. Yeah, maybe. He already said Carnival Zombie. It's not Last Night on Earth. I know that. And he already said it wasn't Fury of Dracula.
All right. Well, now
I'm gonna say My Little Pony, the card game.
no, it's actually I Am Vlad.
Right. Yeah, because that's possible.
My head wound.
Now, my number one, I've been waiting to yell at Z about this because it was so early on your list, and that's Werewolf.
Okay.
Look, and I'm going to really disagree with Z on this one. Z says, well, you play it and you're out of the game. No, you're not. Even if you're out of Werewolf, you're still part of it. You're still watching and spectating, and it's even more entertaining sometimes because you see the stuff that's going on.
Yeah, but
sure,
you
you
don't
can
get
leave.
attention.
Well,
you don't
I
get
understand
spooky
that, but you can. Usually, when I play games of Werewolf, there's multiple in a row. You play 3 or 4 in a row.
Yeah.
And if you play Werewolf, and I played it where I put on sound effects and put the lights on dim,
Right.
and it is a wonderfully spooky experience. And this is to come back to my whole thing with Escape from Aliens in Outer Space. I love the mechanisms here. Just promote that spookiness, that tension, that
I agree.
whole thing.
I agree with all of that, except my point. But the reason it was so low on my list is because, while I think it's a great Halloween game, I do feel that random person that gets killed first in a game of 18 players
Yeah.
is going to be sitting around not really playing Werewolf for a while.
Yeah, that's
all
where-
I'm saying. I think you're right. And it's one of the easiest games to play for a Halloween get-together. If we have enough people, you can be playing Werewolf. There's nothing you need, necessarily. Yeah, the sold versions help. You don't need them. It's a social game. But if you're the first, second guy out, you're going to be sitting around watching people playing a game.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons I didn't even entertain the possibility of putting this on my list.
I think if Resistance had a horror theme, you would have put it on this list.
I probably would have, because there's a game there, and everybody's going to be playing the game for the entire thing. There's no elimination.
I think Resistance should be rethemed as The Thing. John Carpenter's The Thing.
Well, there is that
would
game.
rock, bro. I think that would be
Panic
cool.
Station is the thing.
Yeah, I know. But
That would be cool.
the Resistance The
could see
Thing
that.
retheme
I could
would
see
be
that.
rocking.
I could see that.
There you go. Z said it first. You owe him royalties. Okay, were there any games that, here's a couple games that I wrote down and I didn't do. Mansions of Madness we mentioned already. Kingsport was one that I thought about.
That was on my short list.
Haven't played it yet.
But to me, the theme...
Scary paintings, basically, not
Yeah,
scary
the theme
games.
wasn't very
Kingsburg
scary.
with scary pain.
Kingsport Festival is basically a scary-looking game.
And I thought of the Omega Protocol Level 7 thing, but to me that's... Maybe because I play the aliens more than I play the good guys,
right.
but it just seems like an adventure game to me. But that's probably because I play the bad guys.
Yeah.
And then another game that BGG said was a hard game, and I thought about it for the longest time, and is Conquest of Planet Earth. A game I like a lot, but it just didn't seem like hard because you're the bad guys and you're killing
Right.
tanks and stuff.
Right.
If you're the bad guy, is it horror?
Well, that's what I was thinking. That's one of the things I actually thought about.
Won't feel
Whether or not
spooky,
it's
right?
horrific for you, it depends on your point of view.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I guess so. From the human's point of view, yeah, that's a horrific. That's a horrific.
That's a terrible game for them. Sorry, guys.
Not a great game for them, yeah.
Some of the other games that I actually put on, old game, Cannibal Pygmies in the Jungle of Doom. I actually thought about that. That's
Yeah.
a little B-movie horror game. That was pretty fun. Actually, a newer game. Tom really hated on it, but Student Bodies was not a bad game, not a completely good game, nothing groundbreaking, but it had the horror theme, had a little bit of tactics, movement. You have to do this, stab the other person in the back so that they stay, and
Now that you mention that, Cutthroat Caverns is probably a horror. It's a dungeon crawl, but those monsters are nasty.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, maybe so. I mentioned Mansions of Madness. I mentioned Arkham Horror was on my short list. And that's really about it.
I had
Everything
Witch of
else
Salem on my list.
I was waiting for you to say it. You'd be like, that's not horror. I was all ready.
I thought for sure that would be on your
It
list.
slipped out. It would have been like 12.
Really?
Because while it's
not
basically the same
scary.
theme, it's the same theme as Arkham, technically.
It is.
But it's the same, based on the same setting. But there's no cards with tags. It doesn't really like hook you with the theme. I think it sacrifices some of that for better mechanisms and a shorter playtime, which is why I like it. But it didn't really fit on the horror theme list.
Yeah.
Well, tell us what you think in the comments.
Oh, no. I did not include Zombicide on purpose.
I was just going to say, if you thought we should have said Zombicides, put that below.
I'm just
Or
cutting your knees out from underneath you. I didn't include it on purpose.
Horrific.
Well, I
It's
didn't.
not that I haven't played it. It's not that I. Well, it is that I think it's not worthy. But, we can disagree. That's fine.
Well, you're like, I don't know if people are going
I'm preempting all of
All
this.
right. Well,
stuff there,
and
man.
zombies. We didn't mention zombies. That's one of the perennial.
Yeah, I guess that kind of. That was kind of the linchpin that started it. That's a pretty
That
old
got
game.
that genre really,
Yeah,
really
really,
going.
really
Yeah,
kicking.
probably. Yeah,
Really
very
kicking.
popular.
Maybe it should be in the Hall of Fame. Okay. Anyhow, until next time, I'm Tom Vasel.
I'm Zee Garcia.
Wait.
And I am.
From another dimension comes
Thank you for watching the Dice Tower.
the horse from beyond the gates of hell.
You guys stop horsing around.
Okay, that made it a whole lot less scary.